welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show on a Tuesday night, day 2 of NBA free agency. How you doing, Eric?
Doing good, man. A lot of action. Started off slow yesterday with free agency, but definitely a lot to get into, especially with the news we heard this morning.
That's for sure.
How's it going with you?
Very well, man. We got a lot to unpack. As always, everybody, I am the game injury doc, aka Dr. Evan Jeffries. On my right, Eric B. Mack. We are the host of the Hoops Rehab Show. You can follow us on our handles at all social media platforms, and as well as our YouTube page. So please hit that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube to get all our content, because we'll be uploading videos from today's live show and then turning out some shorts and some reels and all that good stuff. And then also we have the podcast that'll be available in the morning wherever you get your podcasts. It's called the Hoops Rehab Show. So please follow that, get that situated as well. And like we always say, please comment in the YouTube chat or Twitter. We will try to get to some of those comments throughout the show and want to kind of see what you guys are feeling, what you guys want to see done in free agency, especially when it comes to your favorite team, the Lakers, the Knicks, whoever it is. But Eric, you ready to get this show cracking?
Yeah, man, for sure. Definitely a lot to cover.
That's for sure. I thought we might start with some of the biggest news from today. It started with the Myles Turner signing, but about 5 minutes later, we see that Damian Lillard had been bought out by the Milwaukee Bucks and essentially waived. Now, my initial reaction was when I saw Myles Turner get signed, I was like, how the hell are the Bucks affording all those salaries? Little did I know they were waiving Damian Lillard to kind of make room for that. When I saw that right away, I felt that Dame, I don't think he was always invested into Milwaukee. He was traded there, yes, but I never thought that was like a destination that he wanted to go to, right? And then at the same time, I'm like, he just tore his Achilles, and you're going to waive a player after he tore his Achilles. That's surprising. And number 3, this is the biggest buyout in the history of the NBA. $113 million, which will be spread out over 5 years. And that means for 5 years, the Milwaukee Bucks will have $23 million on their books every year against the salary cap. How do you feel about that, Eric?
So definitely some moving parts. Like I can't sit here and say that I wasn't surprised, because I was shocked. But I'll be honest, I'm a little bit more shocked about the cap ramifications, that somebody would actually do that. I mean, you said it yourself. So 113 million owed. That amounts to 22.5 per year against the cap for 5 seasons. So that's like having a mid-level exception player with another player that makes 9 to 10, maybe 7 to 8 million a year. And so that just shows me that the Bucks felt, and I'm sure Damian Lillard felt as well, that the time that he's been there, I don't think it went well. You can obviously point to some injuries, and hell, I mean, he came back from a blood clot to play in the playoffs. It's a cruel world. But in my opinion, this is what I think Milwaukee was thinking. And I mean, contract-wise, I have no idea what they're going to do. But they're figuring, okay, so Damian Lillard's going to be out next year. He's going to come back. He's going to be 30. He's going to be 35 coming up here. He's going to be 36 by the time he comes back. He may take a year to kind of really get back to kind of to where he's typically at. You're at 37 now. Are we going to really see anything close to what Damian Lillard has been? And so I think that was the thought. we already tried it. We've had it for 2 years. In my opinion, honestly, I was pretty surprised that he's still averaging about 25 a game. But maybe they kind of see him as a one-trick pony. He doesn't do well defensively. I know I'm kind of sounding like I'm bashing on him right now, but I'm just thinking like that's probably what Milwaukee's thoughts were. And that wasn't going to do much for them while he was rehabbing. So they feel like we got to do something. We got to make Giannis somewhat happy. Let's go out and get Myles Turner. We'll see if that works out. But I think when it's all said and done, them being on the hook for 22.5 for the next 5 years, we're going to hear it in a couple of years. Like it's gonna really destroy them, because the new CBA, if it potentially happens, wouldn't be till 2030. So we have what we have now for the next 5 years, and that's going to be those 5 years of the 22.5. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. Not shocked as in them doing it to Damian Lillard, but more so shocked that they're doing it with the thought that they're going to be down 22.5 for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and if you just put Myles Turner's contract with the cap dollars that Dame is going to be owed, it's essentially a $49-50 million max player.
It's a max
so essentially, you're saying that Myles Turner is a max player. Because in the reality, Dame didn't have much time left on his contract, right? So he would be out this year, and then essentially maybe he comes back towards the end, and then he would have one more year on that contract. Now you're essentially saying you sign Myles Turner, and you're paying both of them $49 million per year for the next 4 years at least on Myles Turner's, and then you can have another year after that. I just don't think that's smart business, and I sure better hope that Giannis was on board with that decision, because there are some rumors that he said that he was kind of caught off guard, a little blindsided by the fact Dame didn't know about this. It seems like that from the reports. These are all just reports, so I can't tell you it's the truth. But if you're making these moves to keep Giannis, I would imagine you would have let him know that this is what we're thinking and this is what we're going to do, because otherwise that would make no sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is a complete byproduct of a couple things. The Eastern Conference that we've talked about, we've probably hit everybody over the head with it, that the next couple of years, the Eastern Conference is completely wide open, in particular next year. So teams are going to make moves in the East that maybe they wouldn't have made normally. So that's one. And then, ironically, those 2 years that we would have had for Dame's contract to expire, one being a rehab year, maybe the following year being a kind of gain your step back year, Mr. Giannis can opt out and be a free agent in 2027. So Milwaukee's like, let's try to do something these next 2 years. Not saying it's going to work. Not saying it's going to be what they need, but they probably were like, let's try anything we can. But boy, you better hope it works, and hope that Giannis is he was definitely surprised, but hopefully he can somewhat be happy, and hopefully it doesn't matter if you're happy or not. It depends if they got early success going into next year.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the moves that they made, they re-signed some of their guys: Kevin Porter Jr., Bobby Portis, Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr., Jericho Sims. Like, those are good moves to be able to keep those players, right? Then you add a Myles Turner and a Gary Harris. So those are all quality moves. You added Kuz last year, which didn't really work out for you that well. But I think given Kuz the offseason to kind of get integrated with the team, I think he'll be fine, right? He'll be a supplemental player that I think can help out. So overall, when you're thinking about the East Coast and stuff like that, the moves make sense. It just, you have to have full buy-in from Giannis in order to do this. And I hope that they had that. Because like you said, you have 2 years with him regardless. And then if the rumors are true about him possibly wanting a trade and not being with Milwaukee, then if you have to end up trading Giannis, I know you can get a ton for him as far as picks and things like that. But you're going to be on the books with this money for the next 5 years. So regardless of you getting picks, you're going to be pretty awful for the next couple of years if Giannis is not with his team.
Oh yeah, like if Giannis wasn't in the picture or they really thought he might leave soon, I see them probably not doing this with Dame because they're like, hey, we're just gonna like suck it up these next 2 years and just be completely cap free going into the following year. And so they'd have a lot more flexibility. But yes, it's gonna be an interesting rest of the summer. Obviously, if there's any inkling of him wanting to be dealt, I know it's going to be pretty complicated. Obviously, his salary, what you get back, where he wants to go. There's a lot of factors that play into it. Would he rather stay in the East, right, instead of coming to an even more loaded West if he were to come? And so, yep, any move that's made with a team might have a disgruntled superstar, there's going to be those rumors. But I'd probably imagine he's going to fill this like early season out and kind of see how things go. And if things go south fast, I could see him definitely getting into the ears of the upper management there of Milwaukee.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when we finally get some words from Giannis's camp and kind of how he feels on this whole thing. But yeah, unfortunately, Dame got traded there and it just never worked out. I do want to touch a little bit on his Achilles, right? Because he obviously something huge. He tore his Achilles in the first round of the playoffs. So we're looking back on in April. And typically the rehab timeline is somewhere between 9 and 12 months. In the NBA, people usually seem to err on the side of a longer period of time. So if you're looking at, having surgery in April, put say 9 months, right? So we get into January, which is that 9-month period. There were some reports that I think I heard from Chris Haynes that, or Mark Spears actually, was reporting that there could be possibility that he is ready by All-Star break, right? So that's probably putting him about 10 months-ish, right? Give or take some weeks and some time to be ready next year. And Mark Spears was talking about possibly going to his hometown, the Golden State Warriors, right? So Dame is free to sign with anybody, which is wild to say, and he hasn't really been a free agent, right? So this is kind of a new territory for him. Yes, he's going to have to rehab a whole bunch of time this year, and from all reports are saying that he wants to rehab in Portland, where he's close to his family. But what do you think about the possibility of Dame possibly being in Golden State?
Obviously, as Laker fans, that's one of the first things I thought of, right? Lakers. But we'll see. I don't see many ties there, but you never know. But then immediately I thought Miami was the next thought because he had definitely voiced that he wanted to be there during that time frame where Portland was trying to deal him. And then I thought about, hey, where's he from? That's right. He's from the Bay Area. And I think the Warriors would be someone that would want him, right? Kind of, I don't know. It depends. Like, would he take a back seat? Would he come off the bench? Those kind of things, right? Or would he start beside Steph? But I could see him entertaining that. And then I think we've seen like a Golden State. They picked up Chris Paul, for example. We've seen it with them for some time now. And I think it all just depends, right? Like, I don't know. Like if he comes back around All-Star break, so that's February, it's definitely going to have to be in a role where it's complimentary. Nothing that, you would expect him to be the Dame of old. And so, yeah, Golden State might be a place where, if they can get 15, 20 minutes out of him and he can, be instant offense, maybe off the bench, then, yeah, I could see him go there. I could see Miami. If it's Miami, I don't know if he would play this year. I feel like they're very much in like kind of rebuild mode. Like when he wanted to go there, they had Jimmy Butler. It was a different Miami team. They had just come off playing the finals against the Nuggets. And it was kind of like, whoa, we need to get someone to take that next step, right? And so things have changed in Miami. So I don't know if that would be the team, but Warriors are definitely one to look at. What were you kind of thinking as you think of the teams in the NBA maybe wanting his services?
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors make a lot of sense because he could rehab and not really feel the pressure of trying to come back too early. And if he were to come back by, say, All-Star break, February-ish, he can come back in more of the complementary role, right? He doesn't have to come back into that starting takeover, get 25 to 27 points per game. He could literally come off the bench, I think would be fine, and then prep for the next season where he can start, and it'd probably be Steph and him in the backcourt, along with Jimmy and Draymond and whoever else is there at the time. Because they start two small guards right now with Przinski, right? They start pods at the two. So I'm not really too concerned with kind of that matchup. And hell, if you have two guys that are shooting from 30 feet every second on both corners, I mean, you had the Splash Brothers there. This is going to have to be a new name with the 2-point guards like that. So I think it could potentially be a great fit for Dame. Looking at any other teams, yes, there's some contending teams I think he would obviously be a fit for. But I see that as a team where he doesn't have to feel rushed. So I kind of like the scenario.
Yeah. I mean, the thought of him kind of slowly coming back and maybe taking a back seat next year, and then the following year having more of a kind of solidified spot on the roster. I mean, of course, when I think of Golden State, and we're thinking 2 years away now, I'm thinking Draymond 2 years from now. I'm thinking Jimmy Butler. I mean, they're going to get. I don't think it's going to end well, but it'll be probably exciting to watch.
Yeah. What do we got? Steph 37, Jimmy 35, Draymond 35, and Dame would be 35, right? So they would all be aging at the same time. Obviously, Steph doesn't play like a 37-year-old. However, the longevity into the season and then going into the playoffs, as we even seen with Steph, he's not immortal, right? He had a hamstring injury in the playoffs, and which literally, in my opinion, and what I said before, I thought the Warriors had a chance to get to the finals if they would have got past Minnesota. I thought they were just a much better matchup for OKC versus Minnesota was. So they would be an old team, but if they still would have the mix of young guys on there, because you got to remember, Dame would be cheap. He doesn't need the money. Even Mark Spears says he does not need the money. So he can sign for more of the like minimum type of contracts or whatever, 4 million, 6 million, whatever that type of thing is. So
yeah, and if you sign him, a team takes a flyer, and he is really just not anywhere near what we're used to seeing. It's a no harm, no foul, right? You just move on, and so as long as Lillard wants to continue to play, which it sounds like he does, it's obviously a big injury for somebody in their mid-30s. We've talked about that, but I think it's definitely, like I said, from like a Lakers perspective, you cannot think of it as like, oh, Luka and Dame, like, he's going to be that number two, and he's going to be I mean, he's going to have to be in a position where he's like a 3 or 4, but a very good 3 or 4, obviously. And he could just focus on scoring. You're not going to play defense and all that stuff. You better have some other defenders out there. But yeah, I'll be looking out for if a team is going to sign him this season, and then where, obviously, and kind of how he's doing with his rehab. Maybe around Christmas time, we'll see how he's doing.
Yep, that's for sure. All right, we got a comment here from Osmosis Jones, AARP. That would be in reference to the Golden State Warriors as they are right now. And if they were to add Damian, they would pretty much be in that boat. All right.
The rocking chair is out.
Let's get to the team that always seems to have the controversy, no matter what part of the season we are. We're in the offseason, and the Lakers are the most talked about team. Eric.
Yes.
What the hell are the Lakers doing?
2 words for you. Jake LaRavia. LaRavia? JL, baby. What are your thoughts?
We signed him, in the first hour of free agency? around there, somewhere around there. I forgot what time it was.
Yeah, right away.
I want to preface this with, I don't want to be disrespectful, but to be honest with you, when that came across breaking news, I had no idea who the hell he played for from before, like what the Inside NBA would say, and I did not know who he was at the time of the signing. Okay? Now, once I settled down and realized who he was, and I remember seeing him play for Memphis, playing against the Lakers. He kind of went back and forth a little bit in that game, and I kind of remember his game a little bit from that. I didn't remember him much from Sacramento because I wasn't really invested in Memphis trading in Sacramento at that time. But yeah, my initial reaction was, this is who we signed, and this is coming off of us losing Dorian Finney-Smith. Right, so we just lost Dorian Finney-Smith, who's one of arguably our best defender, a 3-and-D guy that we've traded a first-round pick and D'Angelo Russell for, and then you're telling me we signed Jake from State Farm. No, sorry, not from State Farm. Jake LaRavia.
LaRavia. Jake from State Farm.
That was honestly my initial reaction to it. What was yours?
Yeah, look. As Laker fans, we hope that he's solid, and all signs are pointing towards that. I think he's going to be a decent piece. But when you lead up to free agency, we always see, like, we look at the free agency board, we look at players that teams are perhaps looking at. And so we expect to see those names, and it rarely happens. There's so much out there. And so when I saw his name pop up, I thought the same. So I really started to think about it. And I kind of remembered him, I believe, at Wake Forest a bit. Yeah. He was a first-round pick in 2022, so definitely no scrub. It wasn't like, oh, we're getting a guy who was a first-round pick in 2017, and we hope he pans out. No, it's still a few years ago, and he's still a work in progress. It's just, as a Laker fan, it was just funny for us because we're expecting, like, this huge thing, right? Even though we got the hugest thing ever – sorry, you can't see my hands – hugest thing ever with a Luka deal – we just expect more of that, and we're just the most impatient bunch out there. We'll admit it. I'll admit it at least. And so when we saw that, we kind of chuckled, like, who the heck is this? But all, kidding aside, hopefully, that is someone that is of value. But we know we're expecting, which I was going to ask you about the DFS thing in a couple seconds, but we know we need a wing. We know we need a center. And those two things are not sitting on our lap right now, and we're frustrated. Doc, are we going to get those positions figured out, worked out in the next couple of days here?
To be honest, I think the center position and the wing position is going to come through trade. Like I mean, I'm looking and I keep trying to dive into these free agents that are left and try to make players, into players that we need. But to be honest with you, I think it's going to have to come from a trade. Before we kind of jump to that, I would want to say the dude is a shooter, Jake, right? He shot 43% from three. So it makes sense for a Luka and LeBron-led team to have shooters on the team. I don't doubt that. Any doubt with that. I just think it's kind of redundant with the Dalton Connect. So Dalton Connect was already traded. So I can imagine he will be in any trade that they do this offseason. So I feel like, yes, we're replacing, if you try not to think about DFS in that way, but you think about we're replacing Dalton Connect with Jake LaRavia, I think that's a solid move. Now, getting back to your point, I honestly think it's going to have to be a trade. Yes, there's DeAndre Ayton, right? And I want to say, if the Lakers were completely satisfied with having him as their starting center, he would have been signed already. Because Jordan Clarkson got bought out and about 10 minutes later signed with the Knicks, right? So, is he waiting for a bigger payday? Possibly. I mean, that could be it. I'm not saying that he's not. I just think if he wanted to be on the Lakers right now, he would be on the Lakers. It would be a done deal. And I think there's some reservation on both ends. One being the Lakers is I know he's a name, but is he the perfect fit for a Luka-led team? And then on his end, I think he knows he can only get a certain amount because Jake LaRavia took some of the money as far as the MLE, so he's only going to be able to get about that, the $7 to $8 million range per year. So to be honest, that's not that much for a DeAndre Ayton, like coming off of what type of contract he's had and the type of player that he can get paid. I mean, just saw Myles Turner get $100 and some million, right? So I'm sure he's like, I can get at least a 4-year, $80 million deal, right, in free agency.
Yeah, DeAndre Ayton. So, I mean, for you guys out there, we know that he is not eligible to sign with anybody until tomorrow afternoon, but we also know that typically we would have heard something by now. We think, DeAndre Ayton plans to sign with X, right? And so that kind of tells me, I don't want to say Lakers are having cold feet, but what I'm trying to figure out is who needs the other more. Do the Lakers need DeAndre Ayton more, or does DeAndre Ayton really need the Lakers? And I say that from an Ayton perspective because he is, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's not even looking to kind of change what his rep is. Maybe he doesn't care. But if he is someone that cares about money, I'm sure he does, he is playing for that next contract. And so is he going to get that going to Charlotte and putting up 15 and 10 and losing? Or is he going to earn that, come into a, maybe contender, being in the bright lights, having expectation? We know, us Laker fans, we're going to be on his ass every game, but we're also going to praise him when he comes in and he does well. So that's what I've been kind of pondering, like who needs one or the other more, because Lakers need a big man badly. And so Brook Lopez was out there, Clint Capella was out there. We had our thoughts about them, but that doesn't matter anymore because they're done or they're gone. Al Horford is still there. And it's just, it'll be interesting to see when he officially clears waivers tomorrow, I believe at 2 p.m. Pacific, where he's going to go, because there's probably not a lot of options either, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. There's not that much cap space in general. I thought, it's funny because Indiana, originally signed him a couple years back.
Oh, the offer sheet. That's right.
The offer sheet, and then Phoenix.
Yeah, he was restricted.
Phoenix matched it at the end, right? So I thought, does that make some sense for them lose Myles Turner and at least to stay relevant in the East? I think it does, and I think that's probably going to be a factor in it. I just don't know if he's the defensive presence that we need for the Lakers when that's our toughest spot is defense. Having Luka, Austin Reeves, losing DFS, right? We got players like Vando that can play defense, but he's just not. We saw it last year when he came back healthy. JJ didn't play him as much, and he was getting a max of 22 minutes a game. So defensively, I don't know if we're trying to funnel everybody to our big, if he's the big that we can funnel to, because he hasn't been known for his defensive prowess, right? So I still think they're looking for that athletic big that can catch lobs and play defense, right? And then if they were to get Ayton, you would have both of those, which I think would be a good possibility for them, right? Just to have two athletic big men that can play that are young. Oh, yeah. And I would be completely satisfied with that, because then you can, say you got one of those young guys that they traded for. Obviously the Mark Williams type. Obviously that can't happen anymore. But somebody like that in this league that you can play him, and then you got DeAndre Ayton for your offense, right? So you can kind of interchange them and play him in that fashion there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that idea that Ayton shouldn't be our savior, but he should be just another piece in a with front court depth. And so if you can make that trade, I know there's some names floating out there. Get that athleticism, get that rim protection, with the wrinkle of having maybe Ayton start, right? depending on things.
Yeah.
That would actually sound pretty good. It's kind of a win-win. If Ayton misbehaves or he doesn't like his role, we're only signing you hopefully to 1 year so you can see yourself out,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Or we just won't re-sign you next year. We'll let you walk, which may happen anyways. It might be just a 1 year thing. Anyways, right? Maybe another year. Because we know we're waiting for that 2027, which I'll get into in a second.
Yeah,
But,
I was about to say, why don't we get into that? Because we've heard some rumors, and when you hear it enough, you kind of realize that they're probably somewhat true. You hear from multiple sources, right? David McMenamin, you're hearing it from Mark Spear, you're hearing it from all these people, right? Brian Windhurst, that the Lakers are only planning on giving players 2-year deals, and in hope to have the cap space in 27 to sign a max player. And we've heard this story. I mean,
all too familiar.
I don't know, the last 10 years. And even in the LeBron time, it was like they won the championship. And instead of coming back with that same roster, they said, we only want to sign guys for a year and maybe give them like the 1 year option or whatever after that. And that cost us a lot in free agency, like being able to sign people, because we can sign somebody for 3 or 4 years because they were trying to cover that window, right? And maintain their flexibility. It didn't really work, right? I mean, we didn't win anything else after that point, right? Did we get Luka in? That didn't really have anything to do with it, I don't think, right?
No.
So the idea of trying to save hypothetical cap space when you're in a win now franchise or win now mode with LeBron and Luka does not make sense.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, the 2027, I think you touched on it as Laker fans. Look, we've had a lot of great years, and we probably sound spoiled, but we have heard this far too many times where it's like, we're just going to sign 1 year deals just because there's maybe there's not even really a free agency class coming, but we're looking 2 years ahead where it's like, hey, we have Luka in his prime. Like, let's take advantage of that, right? And so that brings me to my next question or point. So Dorian Finney-Smith, in my opinion, because they were not wanting to go longer than the 2 years, that's the reason he's gone. I believe he wanted to stay with the Lakers. But I talked about it a couple of days ago. He's 32. This is probably his last chance at a decent-sized contract, and I can't blame him for taking it. 4 years, $54 million. That was a little bit too rich in the amount of years for the Lakers. I think it's a little bit bad for business. You trade all these second-round draft picks to get him last year. You had to have known that has an option coming up. I don't know if they were blindsided. I mean, they had to have known that he was going to perhaps decline that option. That was they traded obviously not Westbrook. They traded D'Lo as well, and so they got a half year with him. So I guess I'll pose a question. So if they would have signed him for the 4 years, I think we would have got probably the most out of him this year and next. I think year 3 and 4 it could have been. I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. And then that is that time that we probably could have used that space to maybe go after someone. This is what the Lakers were thinking about. But in my opinion, if you get 2 years through the deal, you got 2 years left, I believe that contract becomes more tradable, right? The last year, most definitely. And so I don't know why we didn't really think about that. I mean, I'm sure we did. Lakers probably did. But they really, really probably outthought themselves here with that. And what were your kind of initial reactions to it?
Yeah, it goes back to that same thing. When you sign these guys, you have tradable contracts. And so I don't really understand where say, hey, we're only going to do 2 years. And I think they messed up trying to negotiate the extension. From what I heard is they were pretty much lowballing him on the extension. He kind of got disrespected about it. And then if the rumors are true, I sure hope not. Rob was kind of bad-mouthing about his knee, even though he's coming off of ankle surgery already, right? So and then he's talking about, he has a knee issue as well. And if that's the case, that's not good juju. And I sure hope that's not the case. But if any of those rumors are true, that's pretty crazy. But yeah,
Wouldn't put it past Rob, but
you can have tradable contracts. It goes back to the whole Caruso thing. We didn't want to give him $9 million a year for 3 years. And 3 years,
I know.
$9 million.
By now.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, even if you got that as a deal, he's such a great player that's a tradable contract. And obviously, he was a tradable contract. Got traded to OKC, right? Like, he had a contract that's a value. And so I just think that's, if you're trying to take in guys, and the thing that bothers me the most is, especially when you're trying to sign Luka to an extension, that was Luka's closest teammate. He was super happy to have him there when he transitioned to the Lakers around the same time, right? So, I don't think that's good. It looks good on the Lakers, and I don't think that looks good in front of Luka. Those are my two things with it.
Yeah, like we don't know if it's going to make or break anything, but why would you want to? Luka hasn't re-signed. And last time I checked, right, he's going to be a free agent next season, and so that's like you kind of have to make decisions. Not like you have to make smart decisions. Don't get me wrong, but you really have to think outside the box, and you got to know that hey, this guy does all the little things, and not only that, he's our superstars. One of the guys he's really comfortable with, and maybe that is worth more than we could even look at a stat sheet and kind of realize what it is, right? And so that was tough, man, because he played a lot of big minutes in the playoffs. I mean, we obviously know it was a disappointing playoffs, but it wasn't because of him. And so I know he had ankle surgery, and we'll see how he comes out and plays next year. But Rockets got them somebody that is 100% certain.
Definitely. All right, so let's get to a hot topic with the Lakers and LeBron. LeBron's sort of cryptic ultimatum for the Lakers, and kind of how he sees the rest of his career going. Now, do you think there comes a time the next week or two that after it's all said and done, when we find out, hey, we've made this trade or we've signed these free agents, and LeBron looks at the roster and goes, yeah, this is not a championship contending team. I want out. Do you think that's a possibility? Like, if you had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10 or give it a percent, what do you think that percent looks like?
Well, before I give the percentage, I know we talked about this a couple of days ago because the news had just come out, and we got a little bit of clarity on it since then. And so I see some people in the chat talking about Lakers are going to trade him, and they might, but keep in mind, Lakers just can't make that decision on their own. LeBron's going to have to make that decision, right? He's got the no trade clause, so he really is in control with that. Just something to factor in. But I say there's a 20% chance, maybe 15 to 20% chance he gets traded. Probably 80% chance he stays. And that's because, like I just said a moment ago, the news broke where they kind of clarified, hey, it is what it is. What you heard is something the Lakers already know. LeBron wants to play a few more years, which I'm like, oh, all of a sudden he wants to play a few more years, but that's fine. But in my opinion, though, it's all signs are pointing towards it's kind of the end. It is going to be the last year of maybe LeBron in general playing in the NBA, but I think it's going to be his last year on the Lakers. It's just wait and see if he's actually going to be on the Lakers this season. And I think he will. I think it's just really, really a big challenge to make a trade. I think his team also, kind of what I've heard from like Dave McMenamin, said that like LeBron, like all these lack of moves and things that are happening, this was already known that this was most likely going to go like this. And I don't think it's a big surprise. So I don't think the last 2 days are going to change LeBron's thoughts, because we all knew that there wasn't this huge move out there that was going to be like, oh my God, like, we're, better than OKC now. So I would kind of a long answer, but I would give maybe a 15 to 20% chance he goes. And then obviously 75 to 80% chance, 80 to 85% chance that he stays in the purple and gold.
Okay. The way I think about this is, to me, I just think it's on two sides. I think it's 50% that LeBron is just doing his usual kind of cryptic tweets, cryptic language, and things like that. And he's coming back to LA because he knows there's not much market out there. Like, he couldn't be a free agent. That's why he opted in. He's not going to get the money that he would normally get. And there's just not that many teams that can possibly trade for him and have the right pieces to kind of do that. So that's where the 50% goes. But then I think, on the other hand, like, I think he was not blindsided. Everybody's blindsided by the Luka trade. I think he was surprised, shocked, but happy. But then he realized that it's a business, and his boy AD got traded out of nowhere, and the Lakers just changed ownership. So I think there's some changes going on, and he knows they're going for the youth movement, and he said that in his statement with Rich Paul. He knows it's Luka's team moving forward, but he wants it to be about him. And so I think that 50% is still saying, I'm still him. I'm still the king. And I want to win another championship. I know he's gone on his pod and talked about ring culture and rings don't really matter anymore to him. Oh, they do. And he still wants to get another ring. And I don't know necessarily if he thinks, and we don't know what moves they're going to make, but I don't think there's that move that's going to take the Lakers over the top with a stacked West Coast. I think, and I probably said it way too much on Twitter, I probably said it a lot, but I think him going to a team like the Knicks makes a lot of sense on both sides. I think for the Knicks, it's their chance to finally get over the hump and win one, especially in a weekend Eastern Conference. And for the Lakers, getting back some quality pieces like a big and a wing defender, which the Knicks have a plethora of, right? So if you're choosing between OG, Bridges, Josh Hart, and Robinson, any combination of those two, and then obviously making the math work, I think that could definitely be a big possibility. The Cavs is more of a long shot because of all the things that they have to do to get under the apron. So those are just my thing. I think it's a 50-50. And to be honest, I think it's swayed more into that, like, him understanding that he might request a trade versus like back in the last couple of years. I don't think that would ever fathom him trying to ask a trade from the Lakers.
Yeah, a couple of years ago during the deadline, there was like the little bit of rumors with Golden State, and that really was never anything. And so now this is the first time in the LeBron Lakers era that we're hearing inklings of a possibility of him being a bit disgruntled. And so it's going to make everyone kind of go haywire one way or the other. I know there's been plenty of Laker fans that are kind of, done with the LeBron era. I do ask you guys, though, to just recall what the 6 years were before LeBron came, before you get too disrespectful. But I do understand part of it. Like, I think you could have it both ways. You can say, I'm kind of ready. I think Lakers should try to get something for him versus him just leaving next year or, retiring or what have you. But at the same time, like, be grateful for him bringing some kind of joy to the Lakers, right? Those 6 years were just pathetic, winning 30 games, us not even, being able to talk anything about him. So I just have to mention that. And but that being said, he is definitely feeling that playing second fiddle type of deal right now, right?
Yeah.
But in my opinion, why, like, we have Luka. Yeah, we have Luka, but we should be trying to win now, whether if it's with LeBron or not. I don't see how there could be disconnect. Like, I want to make moves to win now. Lakers should be making moves to win now. Luka, he is at his best right now. He's 26, 27, 28 years old. I just don't think it's going to get better. I mean, better than that, right? I'm not saying there's going to be a big fall off, but this is his best years right here.
Do you think Luka wants to not win now? Like, it's like the way they're posing it. like, oh yeah, we're trying to the youth movement. We want to build around Luka. You still have LeBron. You still have one of the greatest players there. Just make it work with those two. And albeit they could be doing that, right? We don't know everything on the details. But like, why don't you go ahead and say that? Lakers haven't come out and said we're trying to build around these two. Have you heard Robert Linka come out and say we're trying to build around Luka and LeBron? And win right now? No. So I think that's a bad move because I don't know if anybody knows this. Luka's a free agent next year. If he doesn't sign his extension on August 2nd, he's going to be
or may have not talked about that.
So if we're going into this season, Luka a free agent without extension, oh shit. You best believe it's going to be a long season because that's all we're going to be talking about for the whole year. All the media is going to say when things get bad, oh, Luka's can't wait to get the free agency. Oh, Luka can't wait to get out. You know, like all you're going to hear is all this stuff. So for you to say you're building cap space for 27 when you don't even have Luka signed for extension can't be possible. Get your ass going and let's get some deals to make this Lakers team a contender.
Preach. The last thing we want is to go through a regular season coming up where Luka's free agency is in the balance. LeBron, we don't know if by the trade deadline he's going to say, I want to get dealt. And you're going to have a DeAndre Ayton just acting a fool, right? Like that's the last thing that we need for this season.
Oh, man.
But that's what it's kind of pointing towards. Just hopefully get LeBron to buy in for this year. Get that extension going. Make a trade. Sign Ayton, right? Have him be one of two bigs that we pick up.
Yep.
Gary Payton Jr. is still out there. A couple guys are still out there, right? Add a little bit more depth on the team and defensively, of course. Because we saw the two teams that made it to the finals last year were 8, 9, 10 deep. And they were the ones that were the strongest. They got to a Game 7 of the NBA Finals. We know there was a big injury. So that I think that's and we're going to talk about it in a second here. That's what some of the teams that are really gearing up for a run did. Yeah,
that's for sure. All right. So enough Lakers talk before I get a little more frustrated. So let's go into, on our last segment, just that who's had the best offseason so far. I know we're 2 days in the free agency, but this can include the trades and everything going on. But who do you think has had the best offseason for you?
A couple of teams that nobody's surprise. Like one being the Houston Rockets. So they were the 2 seed last year. We talked about who the heck is going to be the go-to guy. They went and traded for Kevin Durant, right? So that's already a slam dunk. We talked about they re-signed Adams, right? We talked about them signing Dorian Finney-Smith, and then Clint Capella just to put a cherry on top. They have too many big guys, but I guess the more the merrier. So I got to say them. And then Denver Nuggets. I think, speaking of depth, they ran out of gas last playoffs. They've been going 3 straight years, going about 7 deep. The first year they won the championship. The next 2 years they lost in Game 7 in the second round. And I think that has to do with running out of gas. So they made a nice trade. So they traded away the contract of Michael Porter Jr. They received Cam Johnson from the Nets, who was formerly on the Suns. I think he's an amazing pickup. Bruce Brown was such a huge part of their championship run a couple of years back. I feel like he's kind of fallen off the face of the earth since then. So I don't know if it's going to be one of these things where he picks up where he left off. Maybe not. He's still pretty young. Tim Hardaway Jr. was a nice pickup. And then Valanciunas. So they got a guy that can, he's not going to get a lot of minutes, but I think during the regular season, they got to get Joker some rest. They got to make sure that he is ready to roll for the playoffs. And so those are the two teams I'm kind of looking at. I take it those two are on your radar as well, along with another team.
Yeah, I mean, those two have had great off seasons thus far, and I think Houston has solidified themselves as being that top two team with OKC in the West, and they were a second seed. We always called them a fake second seed last season. This year, they are a real second seed there. Now, for me, I just love what the Atlanta Hawks did. Like, to be honest, I never had Atlanta in my radar of teams that could possibly contend next year in the East, even with all the injuries. But them signing Nickeil Alexander-Walker, trading for Kristaps Porzingis, signing Luke Kennard, who's a great shooter, and then knowing that like you have on your depth chart Dyson Daniels, who was runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year, young athletic player, wing guy that's going to be even better every season. You have a Jalen Johnson who will be back. He'll be playing. He'll be healthy going into the season. He's a nice up-and-coming young player as well. You have the center that they have, Onyeka Ngangwu, if I said it correctly. He's great, right? So you already have all these pieces, and they remind me of like what the NBA is about right now, and it's about youth and building with the superstar, having that superstar in place, which is for them Trae Young, and then building around him with draft picks that you had, traded for Dyson Daniels, right? But Jalen Johnson and Weka, all that the center. It's like OKC. You're building around that franchise. You're building around that superstar, and now you're adding some players like a Porzingis. You're adding Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I just think those are some great moves that they made. In my opinion, they're going to be a top team in the East next year. Like I could see them at least getting a top five seed.
Yeah, I was thinking, man, they're going to be good in a couple of years, but hell, they probably are kind of going for it even next year. And so we're going to see more of that one superstar. I think the 3-star thing is completely done, at least for now. Yeah. Even the 2-star is tough because they take so much of that salary when you got 2 guys. Thunder are going to find out it's going to be a problem in a bit. But yeah, I think it's kind of like that young build through the draft, work around the margins, pick up players that maybe don't have a high value, but they're going to play better than what their contract says they have or they make. And so Atlanta, yeah, they're making some smart decisions. I know they got some draft capital coming up the next couple years. So yeah, I think all signs are pointing up and for that franchise, which is something that we really haven't seen with Atlanta in quite some time. They've had some good years, but they were really not run as well as what we're seeing now. And so it's definitely exciting to see for them down in the South.
Yeah, that's for sure. So exciting times for the NBA. We'll be going into day 3 tomorrow. I would hope we would have some resolution on this DeAndre Ayton issue, especially when he clears waivers, even though that does not matter. But I think we'll kind of know if the Lakers are making any trades in the next couple of days, and kind of towards 4th of July, towards the end of that weekend, we should have a better idea of where this team is going to be moving forward as far as the Lakers. And then the rest of the league, they seem to be getting better at this point. So pretty interesting. Any last words? Yeah. Any last words, Eric?
No, not much. Just probably talk to you guys on Thursday. Hopefully we have some more news. I know, Doc, I know you got a big day tomorrow, but
yeah, it's got a little another day around, getting older.
The sun.
Around the sun again. Birthday tomorrow. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And then, yeah, we'll be back on towards the end of the week, guys.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. Yep. But we come back on, we better have some Laker news. That's all I gotta say, and some good news too.
Yeah, if we hear some breaking news tomorrow, maybe we'll cut on for a second. You never know.
Yeah, might shift gears a bit.
Yep. All right, guys. As always, please follow our YouTube channel, subscribe. We got the podcast coming out tomorrow. If you missed the live show, please follow that at the Hoops Rehab Show. But until next time, the Hoops Rehab Show is out. Peace out, guys.
Peace out, everyone.